What's up, everybody? My name is Alex. I am your host here on the Swole Friends podcast, and we are joined with Bobby Baum here on episode 41. I was going to call you Robert, but then I was like, oh no, Bobby.
No one knows what it is.
So Bobby is here in the office, which is actually going to be my first in-person guest, which if you've been watching the show or listening to the show, you know this. So this is really exciting. Today, so the reason why I'm having Bobby Baum on the show today, he's an LMT. He's the owner and founder of Baum Therapy based in Northern Nevada. Self-improvement is really the biggest thing. I've been going to Bobby for a little while for my mechanical patterns, really working on some old injuries and things like that, and just like moving better, living better, because I don't want to be in pain all the time, and he helps me not do that, which is really nice. He has a specialty in sports massage and mobility training, and his approach to the human body is really, in my personal opinion and maybe biased opinion, pretty unrivaled. So today on the Swole Friends podcast, we're going to dive deep into how to create space in the body, how to move well, how to live better, how or why to seek out sports massage and therapy that way as compared to maybe traditional massage or coupling it with that. And yeah, so we're just going to go from there. But welcome to the show. Welcome to the office.
This place is awesome. Thanks for having me.
I'm really glad we have our coffees. We have our waters.
Super caffeinated, so it's ready to go.
And I think typically when, one of the things I wanted to present on the show today is that when people think of massage, or when I think of massage, I think of like, okay, the spa, cucumbers, smelly stuff. Like I'm super stressed out and just need somebody to work on my body and close my eyes for a while, right? Which is really good. And I think there's a time and place for that, but that is not you.
No, it's not at all.
No, it's not. And when I walk into your office, it's very, it feels very medical. It feels very, but welcoming, but medical. Like we're there to do it. And there's art on the walls, and it's kind of vibey and, similar to here. Like we're here to do work, and we're here to make shit happen.
100%.
And so tell me a little bit more about what you do on the day-to-day.
So people that are wanting to just like relax and like calm down, like my office is like the last place they should really be, because we're trying to like find out what's causing their issues and like create space to alleviate some of that stuff. And then also figure out like what they can do on a day-to-day basis to just keep from like triggering the same effects.
Cool.
So I'll have people come in, the lights are on, their clothes are on, they're wearing gym clothes, and we're just trying to like get in and like create space between like the integumentary system and the musculature. And when people are working out all the time, it's like they can almost like fitness themselves into a box. They're just so much better at compensating. So they'll start to like create like really dysfunctional patterns to like make up for that and like get away from the pain. But in the end, they're just like passing the pain down the line. So we're trying to like figure out what they're doing awkwardly to like just get those muscles to recruit appropriately. And then so you're not over, training yourself to the point where you're just always exhausted.
Gotcha. Do you work specifically with athletes, or what is your kind of your demographic? Who do you serve? Do you see a wide spectrum of things, like from injury to, I think we've talked about like pre-surgery. I mean, we've talked about athletes, we've talked about bodybuilders. What's going on there?
It's really broad. I have a lot of like doctors in town that'll get like some pre-op patients with, and then we'll do like after they're cleared from PT, we'll continue like post-op. But most of my people are in there kind of like they're trying to like maintain a stronger body and just avoid injury. And then when something pops up, we'll get in there and try to like break it down. But it's really broad. I have probably 200 high school kids in here that I see on a regular basis. Tons of like knee replacement, hip replacement, shoulders, tons of CrossFitters, tons of bodybuilders, pretty much anyone that's just trying to like figure out what is like creating their issue and just try to like escape from it.
Gotcha. Okay. So then like when we say create space in the body or in the musculature, what does that mean? Like to someone listening, they're like, cool, space. I don't know what that means.
All right. So a lot of times if you look at your posture and if you start to like look at like repetitious activity, you kind of like fold into that position that you're always
like I'm doing right now.
I mean, everybody does. It's like, that's why I have a job.
Okay, that's fair.
Getting into that position where it's like you can always fail from a strong position as long as you're going back to the strong position. If you start to fail from weak positions, you're going to awkwardly recruit, awkwardly stack. The patterning is just going to get like clunky. And like the clunkier something is, the more friction is going to be a part of it. And then that's going to create more fluid buildup, pressure on the nerves. Like you want to make sure you're moving efficiently to drain appropriately.
Gotcha. So for our listeners or maybe anyone who's watching right now, talk to me about like sitting position, right? Like if I'm either sitting or laying, listening to you talk right now. Tell me how to sit and listen to you properly.
So ideally, the best position would be like making sure that if you're in a chair, like you're sit bones or ischial tuberosities are making contact,
Mhm.
and you have as many.
Is that your butt?
Yes.
Okay, so your butt, everyone.
Like pretend like you're sitting on a bicycle seat.
Okay.
You don't want to tuck your tailbone under because then
Mhm.
you're like turning your skeletal support off.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And you can still like lean back on if you're planning correctly.
Mhm.
You can still roll back like 130 degrees.
Okay.
So as long as your pelvis is stacked, your lumbar is supported, all the muscles have something strong to tie to. But if you tuck the tailbone, the muscles just are like relaxed, and then when you go to stand up, it's like you get grabbed at once,
Mhm.
and everything turns back on.
Gotcha.
But if you can create like as many 90-degree angles in the body as you can while you're seated, you're just going to be treating your skeletal system like more like a shelf. So everything's just handing off what it needs to. But if you stretch out your legs, or you cross your legs, or you drop a shoulder, every time you change and take away that symmetry, you're taking away just natural stacking support where you don't really have to think about anything.
Mhm.
Everything else is just like you're handing off work as soon as you get away from that zero line.
Gotcha. So for people who have tightness in their hamstrings and back pain because they sit all day, what is kind of like a recommendation or general advice throughout their day? And then at what point would they come in for, instead of a relaxation massage, maybe more of a body work appointment?
So anytime like hamstring stuff, if someone's stuck in a chair all day,
Mhm.
your body is just flexing it on itself. So you want to add some like download like a productivity clock or something to like give yourself the opportunity to stand up every like 45 minutes
Mhm.
and just add some, different angles to your body. Get more motion, more blood flow. The more you can exaggerate a big chest and externally rotate the shoulders, like you're gonna get a lot more out of that.
Mhm.
But if you just like get tunnel vision on a project and you're staring at a screen and your arms are extended, your shoulders are internally rotated.
Like reaching.
Your shoulders always follow your thumbs.
Mhm.
So if you're supinated, you're externally rotating the shoulder and you can
Oh.
flare. at
Holding
the
my
cage.
soup.
Exactly,
Supinated.
supinated. That's totally how I remembered that. But routines are everything. If you can automate something and just have a cue that keeps you checked,
Mhm.
like everything else is easy. If you're
Gotcha.
thinking about like exactly what you're doing, it's easy to like to let that slip and fall behind. But if you have some sort of cue that just like you think about tightening and like straightening and just take the listing out of it and just make it just part of your day,
Mhm.
everything's easier.
Well, it's kind of similar to, working out, right? Like you have specific cues for a squat, you have specific cues
Absolutely.
for a shoulder press, you have all these cues, but then it's like the rest of the day we forget about our bodies. We forget that we're
yeah.
sitting all funky and we're leaning funky and we're reaching for our joystick in our car, like
Absolutely.
shifting and doing that whole thing. And that's where someone like you really comes in to be like, hey, I'm going to call you out on this. The reason why, today I went into you and I said, my thumb hurts. Is it from mousing all the time? Is it from playing on my phone? Playing, business owners playing, working on my phone.
It's productive. Productive destruction.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But you're like, no, it actually doesn't originate there. And we need to not just talk about, the pain or the feeling of discomfort in your thumb, but we also need to talk about what's going on in life, what's, where those patterns are coming from when you experience them, right? Like, so when you have someone come in your office, it's not just, hey, my knee hurts. Cool. We're going to fix the knee next.
Yeah. No, we're going to go like upstream, downstream. Because like usually when like pain presents, it's not like where you're feeling it that created the issue. That's like your body kind of dealing and like supporting and passing work to something you trust more. So we always want to work like 12 to 14 inches around the area and just start creating slack. So wherever you're feeling that pressure, you've got that like larger muscle body that's so much like more well fed than connective tissue. That's acting like more of a spring.
That's
We're buying stuff back.
I'm gonna like back up for a second. You said that move it to a place that your body trusts more.
Right.
So like maybe my body knows that I'll listen to my thumb more than I listen to my trap.
You move your thumb so much more than you're dealing with shrugging your shoulders appropriately. If you're internally rotating at a computer all day, you're folded down. So the trap's an extension, it's weak.
Mm-hmm.
But your thumb is the weakest joint in your body. Like structurally, if you have like the opportunity of that much range of motion or activity,
Mm-hmm.
you have that much less stability.
Huh.
And the shoulder's right behind that.
Mm-hmm.
So if you aren't exaggerating a big chest and trying to stack and like have a nice 90-degree angle from like chin to throat,
Mm-hmm.
the weight of your head's pulling you down, your shoulders are internally rotating, you're just folding down. And it just exhausts everything in the back. It turns like all those paraspinals off. Your trap's not doing any sort of support. It's a huge muscle to not have playing a role.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like then your pecs get like overflexed and you just keep clamshelling in because like these are your go-tos.
Mm-hmm.
Most people like they're on like an office job all day, their quads are like over dominating and their pecs are over dominating. So you're not passing that work, you're handing off like when certain groups should be on,
Mm-hmm.
you're just front loading the things you use the most.
Yeah.
So and it creates a lot of like range of motion issues, restriction. you'll start to get like, especially if there's like a repetition effect added in there, like that's where like, tendinitis and like medial or lateral epicondylitis, like those things like play in when you're overusing and you're not using the group to like work together to pump the trash out. So if you're not moving waste out as efficiently as you're creating it, you're gonna have some sensitivity there.
When you refer to waste, what are we talking about for
Just
maybe our
lymphatic,
listeners?
like lymphatic, interstitial fluid, anything that like the body's done using to rebuild and repair gets pumped out through the lymph system.
Okay, solid. Another thing we've talked about too is with posture or with the caving of the chest, right? Is going to be kind of almost like this self-confidence type feeling. Can you tell us a little bit more about? I'll let you talk about it because you're the expert. But
I think like culturally, especially for women, it's hard to like exaggerate a big chest and walk into somewhere and like have a big presence. Because like women have to think about so many other things besides their posture. It's like there's a safety component there and just a cultural component. Like too much attention, like people get lit up for. But you're not doing that to get attention. You're doing it to like protect yourself.
Yeah.
So when people are by themselves at home, like grossly exaggerated a better posture.
Really?
Because if you're practicing like 100% and you're out in public and you're floating at like 85%, you're still in a wonderful spot.
So that's what you meant by failing from a strong position.
Yes.
Right. So if like we're most confident and most like with it at home, and then we go out into the world and throughout our day, we're starting to come forward.
Oh, yeah.
Right. At least that's that 80%.
100%. And just keep resetting to your strong spot. I don't expect anyone to like walk around like this all day.
Except for you. You have great posture.
I'd be such a goofy hypocrite if I didn't like try. Like, don't do as I say, do as I do. Like,
yeah. Right. We don't
gotta
want to do
switch
that.
it. Nope. But I mean, routines are like what save us. And if you're thinking about cues and you're like, all right, my palms are up, my shoulders are where I want them to be.
Yeah.
If I'm like this all day, I'm just folded down. So it's just do what you got to do, but reset to your strong spot and just go back and forth. Because then everything's like flexing, you're pumping out the garbage. You're not over dominating like one control spot that's going to exhaust everything else.
Yeah. Makes total sense. Toxins. Buzzword.
Okay. So like I do a lot of cupping in my office. And
obviously, I don't know if anyone can
those marks.
See anything for our audio listeners. I'm sorry you can't see these beautiful
marks
on my body. But yeah, you do a lot of cupping. But that's not all you do. So talk to us about the benefit of cupping and why that kind of comes through.
Cupping is amazing because it lets you use negative pressure to like lift and pull the integumentary system up and away from the musculature. So we want these systems just like support each other, but we don't want them to be like dependent on each other. So this lets us like have like a physical like and mechanical effect to where we're shearing things and we add movement to the area. So we're just pulling apart these adhesions.
So is that flushing toxins? Like when you see people on like social media, it's like, flush toxins today. Or I go to this massage therapist, because he flushes my toxins. Like, what is that and why does that exist?
So
why shouldn't it?
I feel like toxins are a buzzword to make people think they're sick. So if they spend money for this reason, they're going to be better off than before they spent the money. So, I mean, if someone says like you're making your lymphatic system more efficient because you're, able to get more movement because you don't have structures that are glued together, that's correct. But I feel like the toxin things, like if people are going to say that, they should like explain like the physiological benefit between creating that space. If you have more range there, everything's going to move out faster. So like when you cup up the shoulders, you're moving your shoulders constantly. If you cup up your forearms, you're moving them constantly. You're going to flush that bruising out so quickly because there's so much activation there. If I cup up someone's like lower back, it's not getting the same amount of attention. So they're going to have bruises there for a lot longer. So it's just like finding it, like it's a good way to read your body to see like how efficient your lymph system is in that area based on how you like move throughout the day.
Gotcha.
So it's a good cueing tool.
And that's not the only tool you use.
No, like Graston, like instrument assisted soft tissue like mobilizing tools, like those are awesome. That's kind of like the same benefit, same action, like plan of attack, but just the inverse effect. So you're taking like a stainless steel tool and you're driving up and you're milking the lymphatic like waste out of the area, but you're also you're scanning the area looking for adhesions and breaking those down like slowly. So it's a really good self-care tool for everyone to learn how to do, because like, I mean, for me, I scrape my forearms and my calves every single day. So I'm in my office from like 6 a.m. to 5:30. Yeah. I'm standing and just leaning over and just gently beating up everything. So yeah. It's a good thing to learn how to do. But mobility floss, like, I mean, any sort of banded like blood flow restriction stuff where you can trap a joint and then resist it. So when you add muscle activation, it doesn't take a lot of degrees to give you a crazy stretch. So if you have an injury at like deep, flexion or extension hurts it, it's nice to trap the joint in, and then you can really like separate those structures in a safe way.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, you walk into his office and there's this section of like, there's like rollers and a bench, and there's these little ball things and spiky things, and there's cups places. And I know, I didn't really think about it. We'll have to do another one. We'll do like a cup demonstration or something.
That will be awesome.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, we'll bring a stash bike and we'll just lay everything out. We'll just get after it.
That'd be awesome. And it's interesting too, because a lot of people will shy away from this type of treatment. I know I did for a long time. I'm gonna be honest. Like it's because we want to avoid pain. We want to avoid discomfort, but without discomfort, we can't allow for things to grow or be different 100%. Than our comfort zones. Right.
Yeah.
And so, the nice part about being the professional that you are, you understand where the person is at and meet them where they are and to take them where they want to go, rather than just beating their body and be like, yeah, I hope you come back. Like,
there's definitely like, if we like if I have someone on the table and there's a response where it's like involuntary, or like the pitch of their voice changes, or they're quick reacting and it's not natural.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to ease up. Like, the sessions are like super uncomfortable, but it's like never more than like you can handle. And if someone is having a rough time, like, we're going to take a break.
Yeah.
But the goal with it is to like figure out why you're so sensitive there. Because I'm not putting people in positions where it's like we're taking their joints past their normal ranges of motion.
No.
We're not trying to like create pain, but pain is like the avenue to get the results that you want, but you're in total control of the pain, which sounds awkward, but like when you get on the table, it's funny because it's hard to explain until you experience it. And then once you see it, you're kind of pissed that helps. You're like, I hate that this makes me feel better.
But there's a lot of things that I think people do that create pain that I don't know if they're worth the reward. I mean, think about the beauty industry, right? Think about, facial treatments. Think about just kind of all that stuff. Waxing, hair extensions. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like,
girls have it rough.
It's filing down your nails so they look prettier. Like, there's a lot of things like that. But do those help you long term, right? And that's where the difference between what you do and creating pain and like alleviating pain is a little bit different than the cosmetic surface level.
Well, it's nice when someone gets on like the table. It's like, you're going to know right away if this is helping you or if it's not. It's not going to be like, oh, see how you feel in a couple of days, drink a lot of water. Like, you're going to know if you have more movement, if you have a positive effect from it. And it's measurable. As soon as we have some metrics, then we can kind of expand on it and see like how your body responds to certain modalities and kind of weed out the things that you don't respond well to. So it's not like I'm not in there just trying to like uppercut everyone all day. It feels like it.
Maybe. No.
Gently. But it's measurable. And as long as you've got a metric that you can kind of like play with, then you can just keep adjusting and just tweaking. And like, because every session I have, like, not a single session is the same as the one that day, but like beforehand. So getting in a routine where it's like looking at someone, if I have someone on the table that spent the last 30 years behind the desk and doesn't move, and now they're like trying to get their like health back, trying to get them into routines and like giving them homework and like checking in on them and making sure that they're like doing the little things to keep everything wide open.
Yeah.
But people just wait to be in pain before they like assess and like try to come up with a plan to solve their issue. You're always going to be in pain.
Yeah.
So it's like, find out what's going on, find out how you can stack yourself. Is your pain coming from a trauma? Like, were you in a car accident and like there was something that was totally out of your control? Or is it a dysfunctional routine that you just like don't pay any attention to until the pain's too bad?
Like sitting at your desk for 8 hours or, doing your squat wonky for 6 months.
People do all sorts of interesting stuff, like kinds of push-ups. Like the shoulders are fragile. Like, if you do a lot of like internally rotated loaded work, you're going to chew them up. If you can like pull yourself back to where you're just like nice externally rotated, the back's doing its job, everything's just supporting to give you that effect and that active action, you're going to do less trauma to the area to get the same result. So it's like finding out like how you move, where your limitations are, where your goals are, and like what's the best route to get to the goal without creating an issue in a different area.
Right on. So at Swolverine, we cater to a lot of different athletes and individuals and lifestyles and active lifestyles. Who comes into the office most often? I mean, do you work with crossfitters, you work with bodybuilders, you work with runners, I mean, I know you kind of touched on this in the beginning, but let's talk a little bit more specifics and common problems or things that you work to resolve within?
Yeah,
Those lines.
it's super broad. I think it's kind of seasonal,
Mhm.
which is really interesting. But like, I mean, tons of skiers, like tons of ACL issues. I've got tons of. I mean, I guess I don't know if this is still true, but the last time I heard this, like Reno has more orthopedic surgeons per capita than anywhere else in the world
Mhm.
because like there's always something to do here.
Yeah.
So like right now, I just got done with like all my track kits.
Mhm.
So it's like it's always broad. The bodybuilding community is probably like the heaviest
Mhm.
side of like then CrossFitters, then kind of the weekend warriors, and then just like pain management is probably like 40%.
Mhm.
But it's people that are post-op or pre-op. They're trying to figure out like do. Luckily, we've got some really amazing surgeons in town that are
Mhm.
more kind of I feel like conscientious, and they want to see if they can get someone relief before they use the knife,
Mm.
which I think is amazing.
So you work with care teams, you work with people's other providers. It's not like you're just in a silo.
Oh no, and I refer out. Like if I've got someone that has like a rib out, I'm going to send them to a chiropractor.
Mhm.
I'll refund their money and be like, go see them first, then come back. Because if we know you have a rib out and you've got all these like kind of signs that indicate that,
Mhm.
me beating the hell out of you is not going to make your rib feel better.
Yeah.
So like knowing when and where.
I don't know if anyone's ever had a rib out. It's not the most.
It's not fun.
enjoyable.
It's not taking a deep breath hurts. So like, if you know that, you don't want to just have me uppercut you for an hour.
Yeah.
Maybe real sassy.
Mhm.
And I don't want my tires slashed. So
He parks out front every time, so
don't drive a black tundra. Just stay away from it.
Can't find me.
No. But-
Speaking of ribs, abdominal cavity.
Oh yeah. So
What's up with that?
People don't think about any of that stuff, like diaphragm stuff. Like you're at a desk all day, you're collapsed in.
Yeah.
And people are always over flexing their core, but they're not getting the opportunity to like fully extend it. So if you're sitting here and you're trying to do bicep curls and you're just like, going through that full range, that's awesome. If you're trying to do bicep curls and you're just doing this all day,
Mhm.
like you're going to restrict yourself heavily. So, but the abdominal stuff is like, it's a big piece of like a broader anterior puzzle. So making sure you can flare a big chest, open up that region, get
Mhm.
underneath, and make sure that all those like muscles that are playing a strong role with like respiration are super important.
Mhm.
So making sure you can get in and like hit your intercostals, but sometimes I'll like put cups around like linea alba and around like rectus abdominis,
Mhm.
and just have people like stand up straight, lean over, extend. Just a lot of the active cupping is awesome because you can totally trap an area and then force the extension. So even if you can't move very like far, you're getting such an exaggerated effect because of the negative pressure you're applying.
Gotcha. Yeah, and even like rib opening, right, or breathing deeper, right? Like your lungs go so far down.
It's crazy, but it's like most people, if you're internally rotated, like take a deep breath with your shoulders rolled in.
Mhm.
It's a totally different experience than when you tuck your shoulder blades back.
Mhm.
And I mean, gas exchange, like if you're always breathing like that, like you're just going to be so much less efficient than someone that is actually giving themselves to get all those muscles to go through their full range.
Mhm.
And the expanse of your cage is just going to be a effect of that.
How could someone like at home today, like my mom watches the show, mom, how could you have someone at home start to work on paying attention to their abdominal cavity? Because I think that's also a good thing to think about, going back to the idea of cueing, right? And opening up the shoulders and sitting correctly into the hips. How do you open it? Like, are you supposed to just poke around? Should you lay down and do it? Like, what would be something someone can do at home to work on that?
I would start with just getting like a PVC pipe and just like going back.
Coffee almost
awful.
down.
Just going back to like a snatch position.
Okay.
Like pinning yourself down, but just a lot of people will do like pass throughs like all the way to their butt.
Mm-hmm.
But you're not really getting a great stretch there. And like it's not a normal ambulatory activity. So like when you mobilize, you want to like it to have a direct effect with how you use yourself. So if you get the PVC pipe and you're just going back, shrugging, keeping the arms like up, the goal there is like to flex the traps, stretch the pecs.
Not to just rotate your shoulders through.
No, it's like it's a benefit of it. But like hypermobility is like if you have hypermobile joints, you're going to have more injuries.
Oh.
So like more isn't always better with degrees. You want to be able to like know where your better range of motion is, and then use and stretch and train and plan for how you actually like live outside of the gym or outside of the office. So like the pass-throughs though, it's like when you go over, it's like you're flaring your rib cage, you're stretching your abdomen. Everything is going through like a healthy stacking position, and it gives you a better exposure of like where you should be. Because if you just stretch, like stretching is amazing, but like you need a cue that's going to be like, again, automatic. Because when you're doing the pass-throughs, you're hitting so many other things in a really positive light that you're not even thinking about doing. That's when you're going to get benefits, when you can have an activity that's going to like trickle throughout the body. And if you can do those, one, you're going to stand, you're going to put more weight on your heels. So you're going to load your glutes more. You're going to pull people away from that like anterior locked position. And they don't even realize that they're benefiting that way from it. So like all of these other things are like just paying off without you even realizing.
Well, I don't know if you guys are noticing, like, I feel like you're weaving this neat little story. It's all building on each other, right? So we're talking about living better and creating more space. And then we're talking about, just opening the body and opening the opportunity for one thing to affect other things, right? Like, and if you don't have a PVC pipe, grab a broomstick, don't grab a shovel. I feel like that'd be heavy, but
go get it. If you don't have a PVC pipe, go get a PVC pipe.
Go get a broom, because you probably don't clean your house very well.
That too. But get a long broom, because like if it's a short broom,
Yeah.
you're going to create like impingement opportunities. So you want to have like at least like, like a 5 foot like piece of PVC pipe, I think is like $6.
Cool.
Like super cheap. Just grab
Skip
it.
the coffee today.
So
skip the frap.
no lattes.
No lattes.
Maybe one latte.
One latte and a PVC
and
pipe.
a PVC pipe.
$12.
That's plenty. But I mean, you're gonna benefit so much, and it's automatic. Like
Mm-hmm.
when you're doing like pass-throughs, like it's not this huge commitment on time. You can do 80 in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
So it's like you're just timing your breath. You're exaggerating those like normal activities of those groups,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just showing you where you're weak. You want to find out like where you need attention by just using yourself normally.
Mm-hmm.
If you can do that subtly and it doesn't take a huge commitment on time, like you're going to be better at it. If you have some crazy long list of like routines that you got to go through, like you're not going to do those.
Mm-hmm.
If it's not convenient, you're probably not going to make time for it.
Yeah.
But if you've got quick little bouts where you can be like, oh, I'm going to hit this, this, and this, it's easier to do, especially like if you look at your day. Like I like to have people like draw a circle in the air and put 24 dots on it. And like imagine like shading in the parts of that pie that you're not moving in. Like sleep is a third of your life.
Mm-hmm.
Not really the most control over it.
Yeah.
And side sleeping creates all these other problems. Belly sleeping creates all these other problems. Mm-hmm. So like looking at that and then being like, after you came out of, a 30% chunk of your day into another 30% chunk where you're not moving again, that 1 hour of fitness is only 4% of your day. Mm-hmm. It's hard to make up the slack and the dysfunction from those two activities if they're not being executed in a really proper light.
That's wild. I hope that sinks in on you guys. That's a big one. You always hear people say, oh, the 23 hours out of the day, it's not just the 1 hour a day that you can do something and expect results, right?
It's subtle things, it's subtle wins. It's not like you don't have to have these crazy, practices and these, go do all these classes or go get on my table. It's just like give yourself windows where you move better. There's a little bit more intent with what you're doing. And you're just like focusing on circulation, focusing on activations, focusing on loading. If you can do those things and it's just like not impeding anything else, like it's not a big deal. You're not having to change, you're not having to get on the ground, you're not having to go take a shower afterwards, like just exaggerated good tall posture, like your better posture, and just start building off that. Like if you're, watching a movie or watching Netflix or whatever you're doing, like lay on the floor, lay on a foam roller, like stack other things. Like work those good habits into the things you enjoy doing.
That's an interesting concept too, because so I'll lay on the floor occasionally, like throughout the day, like, and everyone knows walking by my office, they're like, oh, she's on the floor, don't just give her a minute. Just leave her there. But that is one thing we don't touch. Think about it, you guys. Like, when was the last time you touched the floor? When was the last time you laid on the floor? When was the last time you just got down there and just hung out down there? And that sounds so stupid. But we have like these couches and these cars and these beds, and we have all this stuff that's like great and neat, but it's very simple, right? Sit down, sit on your hips properly, extend your legs, and try to touch your toes. When was the last time you guys did that?
It's rare. It's like if you're comfortable, your posture's wrong.
Ooh.
So if you're sitting on the couch,
I told you he has good call outs.
It's a little things. I gotta sneak him in. I write him down.
Okay.
I awkwardly practice them in the mirror. But
if you're comfortable,
you're doing it wrong. If it's not hurting, it's not working.
It's not hurting.
That's true though. If it doesn't suck, it's not worth your time.
Mm-hmm.
But like if you're sitting on a comfortable couch and you're just falling into it, and your body's just in all these different angles. As soon as you take away symmetry from yourself, you are paying for it with something else. You don't know when that bill is going to be due, but it's going to come, and you're not going to be able to get out of bed. But stack yourself, use your skeletal system like a shelf, and you actually work less hard trying to like take care of yourself.
I feel like that's kind of a hard truth for people to hear.
It's an uncomfortable truth that people work really hard and they get their hour of fitness in, which is amazing. Like they do all these things, and it's like, this is my break. This is my reward to relax and just fall into the couch or whatever it is. But like, it's hard to work that hard and then shoot yourself in the foot by taking the skeletal system like support and function away from the support of the rest of the body.
Well, this is an interesting conversation to me because I think a lot of times you hear on social media or like in nutrition coaching, or you're hiring a nutritionist or hiring a personal trainer, like, help me do all these things and help me get better results and do all this stuff. And it's like kind of the same thing, right? You can't just work out and outrun your fork. No. But then you sit down with someone like you, which is exactly why I wanted to have you on the show. And because it's like, you can't outrun your body either. You can't ignore, or you shouldn't ignore it. You shouldn't neglect it. You shouldn't. And the things that you can do for you, like you're saying, are very, very simple. Yeah. It's not like a 20-step routine. I mean,
it's not by my book.
Yeah.
It's just stand up tall.
Yeah.
And like, or sit appropriately or get on the foam roller. Like, it's simple. It's just like, it's the consistency and like carving out the time to make it a priority. Like at home, I've got like a little note on my wall that just says like, fix your shit. And I see it, I'm like, oh, damn. It makes me think about it.
Yeah.
But it's like, you need some sort of cue to be better. If your cue to be better is pain, you only are better when you're in pain. And you do enough to get through the pain, and then you're busy again, and you just find a new way to hurt without realizing it. And you're like, back to square one.
Well, that almost like correlates back into sitting for too long or not eating for too long, or right, because the discomfort or the pain of what you're experiencing is not as much of a priority to you as the thing that you're seeking reward from because 100%. Of your pain.
Well, mobility it's awkward because like if your backyard looks like hell and you go out there and you put 2 hours into it, it's gonna look really good. Mobility and like postural corrective like routines, like you don't get that feedback. It's like you're doing it to avoid feedback. So
it's similar to water intake though.
Yeah.
I mean, people don't drink water because they have to go pee.
Yeah.
Did you hear me? You probably don't drink water because you just don't want to go pee all the time, right?
Yeah. I have 10 hours of clients too. I'm like, I got to plan.
I should say it to you. I'm just kidding.
It stresses me out.
Well, yeah, it does. But what happens when you don't drink water, right? Like what happens when you don't mobilize? It's until your body has to tell you something. Yeah. Right. I mean, I don't know or the number right off the top of my head, but it's like the signal for dehydration is after 6% water loss or something. It's something really small. Yeah. Like don't exactly quote me on that. Somebody Google
I'm going to quote you.
I wish I had an assistant to like Google this in the background.
You need a producer back there.
I do. I know. Yeah. A producer. But yeah, it doesn't take very much. And it's similar to the body sending a pain signal for you to pay attention to it. It's like past a point of being able to correct it by itself. Right? Our bodies are phenomenal things. They do a lot of things on their own, but not without our own attention.
100%. And like with dehydration, like water stuff, it's like, I mean, eventually, like when you start having like, renal issues and your kidneys aren't doing what they should be doing, like you don't want to find out you haven't been drinking enough water as you're like having to get rid of stones. To be like an awful wake up call. It's like making sure those organs have what they need to like take care of everything else. Like dysfunction is going to pop its head everywhere you let it.
Well, and you probably see dehydration within somebody's skin. I mean, our skin is our biggest organ, and then under that's our muscle and our tissue and our fascia, right? So, I mean, I
don't notice as much of that per se, but like just getting in and like, I feel like it's one piece of a big puzzle. If that's like deficient somewhere, it's going to probably like, they're going to have a lot of other deficiencies. If like water intake is like something they, if they get 3 cups of water a day, like there's a problem. Or if they're getting their fluids from soda or just orange juice or like
light beer. I had someone say that to me the other day.
There's water.
I know. They're like, I don't drink any water. And I'm like, what do you drink? They're like, Diet Coke and Bud Light. Yeah. And I was like,
they drink Bud Light?
Yeah.
Ugh. Yeah. Routines, if you just like give yourself like little wins. If you give yourself little wins, like you'll keep going after it. If you're like, it's like the New Year's people, like, I'm gonna lose 30 pounds. Just don't put that as a metric. Just be like, go to the gym, give yourself little wins to pat yourself on the back and like feel good about what you're doing. And like you just keep that wave riding, and like, 4 or 5 months go by and you're like, holy shit, I look totally different. I feel better. Got more energy. I'm sleeping well. Like those are the wins. Like it's easy to just get like totally focused on metrics that are so hard to like staple out and obtain, because you still have to do all the other shit to just get you through your day. So give yourself little wins. Focus on like with mobility, it's like you want to just give yourself a time chunk. Like for me, it's like I like to do like 20-ish minutes in the morning, and I'll do 3 to 4 20-minute bouts throughout the day, and then a chunk before I go to sleep. And it's just like, because I'm hunched over all day, or I'm like holding someone's leg up, or I'm stretching someone or doing something, getting some time back for myself just to like stack and reset and show myself how far away I am from that good spot keeps me like running back towards the good spot. So,
and that's where cues come in for those little baby check-ins, so that you can have it stack.
100%. Just the resets. Big chest. Be as awkward as you can. When you feel safe, like when you like going to Trader Joe's, walking around like this, like that's not going to be safe.
Mr. Baum told me to
have a prescription.
Stand up straight.
No, everything will be on fire. Like my wife is like a 4'11", just jacked little CrossFitter. And I don't want her walking around Trader Joe's like this. She's kidnappable.
She's kidding.
I could put her in a duffel bag. So I'm like, you make yourself small, but when you get home, you feel safe. Like, exaggerate. And like she's a dental hygienist. Like her job is, quality of her life is based on her posture.
She's super like.
And she has amazing posture because she's such a just diehard CrossFitter. So it's like form is so important to her, and it like makes her job. She's just so much better at her job because she isn't constantly dealing with pain from those positions.
Gotcha.
So like you can break down so many issues based on like the career path someone chooses. Like, and everyone has the same issues because we're all doing the same thing.
For people who have more musculature, like a very buff bodybuilder, I mean, we kind of always make jokes at our friends. I know we have some mutual friends, and it's like, hey bro, can you scratch your back today? And they're like, no,
I need a spotter.
Yeah, exactly. Someone do it for me. For people who have a lot of muscle, what are some of the common problems that you experience with them, and how do you help them resolve those?
The biggest thing is they're like fitnessing themselves in a box because they get such aggressive tunnel vision on building and like their diet and all these things. But it's like, if you're filling up the tank, like you don't have, the mobility is not going to come with that. I mean, like you're putting so much more pressure on the connective tissue that like you've got to really try to like open everything up. So I mean, external rotation, like you get body, like the internal rotation, they like they push up their traps, but their shoulder blades are like driving that muscle up. So it like collapses in their cage. They're less efficient. We all know the bodybuilders that are like heavy breathers. So like you've got all this extra weight and mass here. It's like you got to make sure everything's going through its range just so you can maintain that opportunity of movement. So I mean, getting people to do the pass-throughs, like that's, I can only give like one upper body recommendation, one lower body recommendation. It would be the PVC pipe pass-throughs just to a snatch position, and then psoas work, like drop down on a kettlebell or something like that. Open up your low back. Psoas is 80% of my day is just psoas stuff. Everyone has an issue with their low back. So it's just finding it, like showing them like how that affects the area and pulling it away. Like everyone just has this like crazy aha moment.
So what would be, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
What would be an example of that for people? Where is the psoas? How can somebody like point to it on their body and know what they're going to work on?
So it's probably one of the more uncomfortable areas to work on because it's like it's lining like your lumbar all the way down, emerges in with like iliacus, goes over the pubic bone and into the neck of the femur.
And we're in the hips in case anyone doesn't know.
Right. So if you want to find it, you like find like your belly button and then like your iliac crest.
Okay.
And you're like going in.
That's like the big top hip bone.
Yes.
Okay.
And you're gonna trying to like kind of hit right between rectus abdominis and transverse abdominis, and you're gonna come in and up.
So it's on the inside of the hip.
Yep.
So like where an ovary, general area, like if you think about where you think an ovary would be.
Hopefully it's there.
Hopefully it's there.
And then to test it, you're just gonna do like a straight legged lift, and you're gonna feel that pull up because I mean like your psoas like what's initiating that first step.
Gotcha.
But if you're sitting all day, it's like you're clamping yourself down. So you need that expression. You need to open it up. You need to stretch it because it's a super strong muscle and you can't get to your psoas from your back. So it's like you need to get in and just like hammer the bejesus out.
And that's because your hip bone protects it. right? Yeah.
Well, I
No.
mean, you've got like a erector spinae and like all these other groups,
Oh,
and all this connective tissue in the back. And
Yeah.
like, kid, like, I mean, there's just a lot. It's just a sensitive spot.
Yeah.
But like the way the muscle, like the body of the muscle, it's kind of like you can't really reach it the same way because you really only have like an anterior kind of approach.
Mhm.
There's too many little bony prominences in the way, and like to affect like those posterior groups, like the connective tissue would just get destroyed, which would be not pleasant.
Yeah. And that nerve complex in your hip, like if you push on your hip and it's like,
Definitely not fun.
no, but it's like right above that, right? Like right in that general area, for someone like at home trying to like find that.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say like get in front of the mirror, look at where your belly button is,
Mhm.
and you just draw like a line from the sharpest part of the hip bone
Mhm.
to the navel,
Mhm.
and you're just gonna try to come in like dead center and push like medially and then up.
And then you
track it.
mentioned using a kettlebell.
Yeah, kettlebells are nice because it gives you like a nice elevation to it, and then it's a wider surface area, so you can just kind of fall into it and like expose yourself to that work,
Mhm.
like more like in a softer way. It still sucks, but it's not like having these digging in.
So if our listener is going to do this at home, are they laying on their stomach? Are they laying on their back?
They're
and
gonna
then
be
putting the kettlebell on.
I would lay like be in like a prone position, so you're like kind of almost do like a plank over it,
Mhm.
and the handle of the kettlebell is gonna kind of match that V line,
Gotcha.
and you're just gonna fall into it, and then bring your knees and your elbows to the ground, and just deep breathe.
Don't forget to breathe.
Yeah, you need to breathe. Like pass out. You have other problems.
I need to breathe. It makes me stressed out. That's like one of my tightest spots, and I'm always like, oh.
That's like that muscle is like why I have a business.
Yeah.
100%. There's a couple other muscles, but mainly that. Like, yeah, everyone's so messes off, and nobody thinks about it because they're like, oh, my low back hurts, but it's not like they're just trying to posteriorly roll something out, or which is still good. But
Mhm.
if you're not getting in through the abdomen, you're not affecting it.
Yeah, the abdominal cavity holds a lot of secrets for us. I am learning. I hope you guys are learning that too. But gym mechanical patterns. What are some really common things that you're experiencing with your clients and clientele that is happening in the gym that's getting them in your office?
Most of it would be like loaded internal rotation stuff for the shoulder.
Okay.
So like if someone is, like if you watch, and even if someone's just doing like bicep curls where they let their shoulders come down,
Mhm.
they're like doing more lat kind of engagement, you want to like make sure you're isolating what you're trying to affect, and then don't couple like things. Like check your ego. If you can check your ego and just do things that you're not just Xeroxing off someone that doesn't know what they're doing,
Mhm.
that'll save you from like really needing to be in my office. Don't just do stuff because everyone else is doing it. Like make sure like you know why you're like what your goal is, like what muscle groups you're trying to improve,
Mhm.
and like take it back to being simple. Like you don't have to do burpee, backflip, box jumps. If you can, though, it's sick. But I mean, just take it back. Like be like if it's slow and kind of boring, it's safe.
Mhm.
And just assess where you're at. Like don't just try to just chase numbers or a clock.
Or even just, for people doing yard work. I feel like people get hurt doing yard work a lot.
Oh yeah, that and pickleball. We got a lot of
Pickleball?
Pickleballers.
Really?
I was like surprised. Lots of
Getting
stuff. I'm like, wow.
What kind of stuff?
Lots of ACL stuff.
Oh, what do you do for ACL stuff?
I don't do anything for ACL stuff.
No.
I mean, I'll work on people after they have like surgery. But
Yeah.
I've had probably 30 people tear their ACLs playing pickleball in the
Wow.
last 18 months.
Yeah, from that lateral movement.
It's like women's like hips are wider, so that Q angle is like it's a more fragile kind of spot.
Mhm.
So as soon as like their chest isn't pointed in the same direction as their knee when your body changes positions,
Mhm.
it's just like so much torque for that area and just pops.
Yeah.
So not awesome.
No, not cool. You mentioned working with a lot of teens, kids.
Yeah, I have tons of high school kids right now.
What's up with that? Are you seeing more injuries? Are you seeing more? Is it more preventative? Do you think people are paying more attention to things like
both? Like lots of preventative stuff. And I've worked at a lot of gyms in town, and one of the last gym, there's a gym in town called Evoke Fitness,
Mhm.
and I just love the owners; they're amazing, and the husband is one of the track coaches from Evoke.
Oh.
So I just get like all the kids that are when they're broken,
Mhm.
they come in, and then they just get them on a routine to keep their hamstrings opened up, depending on what sport we're kind of working with. Just like focusing on posture, focusing on like what they can do at home.
Mhm.
It's like those kids, it's like they don't move all day at school, and they practice is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
and they come home and they do their homework and they go to bed and they don't move anymore.
It's like the person who sits all day and then goes play pickleball.
100%.
I mean,
it's just the routine and acknowledgement of like change how your body supports itself when it's not really doing anything. If you're earning with your brain, you're looking at the screen, your subtle movements all day long, like give yourself the opportunity to like stand up, express yourself, focus on breath work, focus on like ankle mobility, use your glutes. If you just sit down and don't move and you let yourself fold in on itself, everything is like trying to like flex into itself. And we want to avoid that. We want to be able to flex when we want, but we want to be able to stand in a position where it's like we can turn on anything we need to when we want it to be on, and we're not awkwardly recruiting because we feel weak.
Gotcha. What do you think? So, I mean, I know you're located here in Northern Nevada. No, we're not sharing him anywhere else. No, I'm just kidding. But for somebody who's looking for sports massage, body work, mobility, what would you recommend people seek out? Like, where would somebody find somebody like you?
I would try to like go to CrossFit gyms or bodybuilding gyms and just start asking around. Like you can find people on Google, but it's like you want to find someone that's more clinical, or like go like maybe PT offices in your area, like they have someone to refer out to. But start at the gyms. Like that's the best place.
Yeah. Figure out where all the guys who just walk around and be like, hey, can you touch your traps? Can you touch your
just look for those marks.
Oh yeah, that's another thing. Just like a big body billboard.
Body billboard.
That was Baum Therapy.
Baum Therapy. Got bombed.
Got bombed. I got bombed.
Got bombed.
Oh, new slogan.
Oh, I had this high school kid the other day. I cup him and his family, and he like walked up to this kid a while ago. He was like, "Who bruises you?" I was like, "Bobby bruises me."
Oh my god!
I was like, "That's the best thing I've ever heard."
Bobby banged me out last week. That is a movie reference.
Yeah. No.
That is a movie reference.
It's an awful one.
I can't believe I just said that.
As soon as you said that in my eyes, I was like,
and the movie is Mastermind.
That is a great movie.
With Zach Galifianakis.
That's Will Ferrell and Brad Pitt.
No.
That's Megamind.
Yeah.
I love Zach Galifianakis though. That's a true story.
He's talking about getting his forehead bangs cut.
Oh.
And then when he's asked about it, he's like, "Yeah, Bobby banged me out last week."
That scene where him and his like fiance were
I said that. See, there you go. Live podcast. Ladies and gentlemen. Oh man. Oh, and Ernie. What's up, Ernie? Jonathan. Hey guys. Sorry. We're so in. Oh, that's our chat here. All right. Yeah, don't overcomplicate. Pickleball has a big one lately. Oh.
I'm so blind.
Nikki's you can't even see the computer.
I just got sprayed in the face with brake cleaner, like melted my eyes.
Brake cleaner?
No.
What were you? Why?
I don't know.
Sounds stupid. That's why you touch people for a living.
That is. Take out my frustration on.
I can't see you, but
It's like why I got into massage. I had an ophthalmologist tell me that you're going to be blind by the time you're 25.
Really?
It's like,
how old are you? 24?
36.
Oh, you still have sight.
I know.
Oh,
Wish I was 24. That'd be sweet.
I know. Yeah, that'd be rad.
That's all the things.
So I guess we haven't gotten into that part. How did you get into it?
My mom's a chiropractor.
My mom. Hi, mom.
God damn it. But so she's a chiropractor. So like her office was just attached to our house. So just like constant exposure.
Uh-huh.
And I went to UNR for health sciences. And by the time I was like looking to go to chiropractic school, I was kind of I don't know, intimidated, I guess is the best word, because there's so many in Reno.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I don't want to go away for 3.5 years and then come back and there's going to be even more. Mm-hmm. So I did 1,500 hours of shadowing PTs, and I got to work with some awesome doctors in town. And it was mainly like older people that were just post-op that weren't doing the homework, and they're just always pissed off all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So that was not fun.
It's your fault, Robert.
And then I did 500 hours of occupational therapy. 500? Yeah.
Wow.
That was a lot. And it was just like diabetic amputees and failed suicides all day.
Really?
So that I hated. And when I was going to UNR, I did.
Not rewarding, huh?
It was just, I was too sensitive. I was like, it was rough. Like,
you got some feels in there? Oh.
Yeah. I mean, just like, I like to hurt people as long as they're like, hurting themselves and like listening to me. Uh-huh. But I don't like, it's just like, it was just a different experience. And thank God there's people out there that like can do that because it's a super important job.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I went to massage school like at night while I was going to UNR because I thought it would just look good on like whatever program I was trying to get into after that.
Mm-hmm.
And I just kind of fell into it just with networking and different, gyms and doctors in town. It just kind of like turned into something like totally under my control and just amazing. So It's been
Wow.
really fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Was your mom disappointed?
No, probably.
I mean, some people get like that, right? Like parents are like, they didn't follow in my footsteps.
I don't know. Like I beat her up too, so she knows. She's afraid to say it if she is.
Oh my gosh. Don't quote anybody on that one.
Better than your quote.
I know, gosh. Yeah, there's always like one time during a podcast that I like say something very stupid, but I mean it's just the way it goes. It makes it fun.
Sometimes it just slips out.
Yeah.
It's all right.
It's okay.
Heck yeah.
Have you done, I mean, you had talked about doing schooling and work with cadavers previously, so you have a lot of experience both educationally and professionally. You have been doing this for how long?
I've had Baum Therapy I've been doing it for 16 years in August.
So, and I guess where I'm going with like the cadavers and like working from an educational standpoint is that it's not, I have been to some LMTs where it's just like, yeah, I did a year of school and here I am. And I think this is the something or else, and I'm like, that doesn't sound right. It also doesn't feel right.
I have really lucky to do it with exposure. It's like my mom taught anatomy in California, so I had to go to like class with her, and it was just like our coloring books were like anatomy coloring books when we were growing up. So I was like, this is latissimus.
Right.
And it's like, all right, I'm gonna color this son of a bitch in.
Yeah.
This is blue.
Yeah.
So it was just exposure. It was awesome. Like just having that and just like watching my mom do her thing was like really satisfying. I didn't feel like work. Having people in my office does not feel like a job. And just the trust, and then when people bring their families in, and just like when you kind of like have a conversation and slowly kind of break it down for someone. And it's nice when they leave there feeling like they've got a better grip on what's going on within themselves.
A little bit more in control in this crazy life.
Like a little exposure goes a long ways. And like, if you can slow it down, like your body's a car. And if you have certain things like lighten up, you just try to diagnose certain things and rule other things out, you can narrow it down. And then just like adopting different practices on the day-to-day that are going to like take the pressure off. Like, if you had a Ferrari and you're racing around a track all day, you'd never like not change the oil. You would never like stay on those beat up old tires. Like you would switch out what you need to do to stay as efficient as possible. And like that's what sports mobility work is really like, creating space where you need it, exaggerating like the better parts of like holding yourself strong, and then limiting the exposing kind of exercises that like you don't really know why you're doing it, you just do it. Like certain activities are they're gonna beat you up, like handstand push-ups. Those are super cool, but you're just like taking the tiniest vertebrae that you have in your body, flipping yourself upside down and tapping on your head. Like it's not even like, you'll do that in a controlled fashion. It's like less, damaging. But at a certain point, like if you're chasing numbers and you're just racing, you're gonna start to do movements inefficiently. And when you add kipping and momentum to any kind of strict activity, like things change. So.
And I guess it's kind of the theory too behind like competition versus practice or competition versus training, right? Competition is kind of the place where you could like let it wide open, but training or like going across a class, 4 times a week to be there with your buds, like you don't necessarily, and this is where you said you keep your ego in check. You don't necessarily need to go balls to the wall to put yourself in an uncontrolled position repetitively. Like what is the cost of that? You know what I mean? It's almost like driving around, going with the car analogy, driving around with your car super fast all the time. Like your chances of getting in an accident are a lot higher.
Absolutely.
Right. And that's kind of like the same thing that you're getting at with your body. Like if something feels off, if something feels weird, if you're like, yeah, this doesn't look good, but my squat is blank because of the numbers. We're walking down the stairs, leaving his office today to come here. And he's like, you should think about what your ankles are doing, not your squat number. And I was like, yeah, Bobby.
I know.
And then here I am,
But it's always the same thing. Like if you can like check your ego and like, if you know why you're in there, like doing CrossFit or whatever it is, if you know why you're doing it, you're just trying to be healthy. You're not trying to like go to the games.
Yeah.
Like CrossFit's amazing. The exposure is amazing. It's always changing. You've got camaraderie, you've got peer pressure, you've got all these really cool things that you get to like encapsulate and have in one spot, which is insane. Like most people, it's like as an adult, you really don't play like high school sports. Like if you grew up doing that, you don't have that same exposure. I feel like CrossFit gives that back to people. But like if you know why you're in there and you're limiting certain things and you're like, I'm not ready for that, you avoid that until you feel more comfortable. You know, just like I have so many guys in my office that hurt themselves because they're new to CrossFit and there's a smaller woman that's jacked doing more weight than they are. And they're like, not today.
Not today, Satan.
And they can't walk and they're surprised.
Uh-huh.
You can't compare yourself to someone that's been doing something very efficiently for a long time.
Yeah.
And I think that's where most issues with CrossFit are like ego related injuries. So if you can check your ego, slow yourself down, ask yourself like, why am I doing this? Like I'm trying to feel better, be healthier, get stronger, but you don't need to be the fastest person throwing weight around. Like you don't need to be the fastest exerciser.
The fastest exerciser. It's pretty good.
You just be strong, be tall, like limit yourself, adjust, sub certain activities. I mean, that's one of the best parts of CrossFit. That there's so many things you can switch into it and not change the fact that you're there with all these other people. So
yeah, that's coming from the person who takes care of our CrossFitters.
That's right. I touch hard.
I touch hard. He touches hard.
That sounds better.
Yeah, it low-key is, but it's great.
It's a good time until it's not, but then it's a good time again.
Yeah, fair.
So
wow,
that was fun.
I know, this has been great. I'm super excited. I'm really glad you guys tuned in for video, for audio. Make sure to subscribe to the Swole Friends podcast. We put episodes out like this with our Swole friends all the time.
I'm going to get some creatine though, so I think it'll help.
It ought to, yes.
Better fix all my problems.
Ding. Oh, man. All right. So make sure to follow Bobby on Instagram at BAUM_therapy. Make sure to reach out to him with questions, thoughts. He also does write programs for kind of rehabilitation, ankle mobility programs, things like that. Ideally, if you're in the Northern Nevada region or you're here to visit us here at Swolverine HQ, just a thought.
Absolutely. Come say hi.
Yeah, pop in for an appointment. And Bobby, thanks for being my guest. And,
yeah, thanks for having me. That was awesome.
Yeah, we'll catch you guys next time.
Is it over?
Okay, bye.